sont dits partout.
What's going on, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. Yes, tonight I'm doing the solo because Robert was called into work, it's always his fault. But I think I'll give him a little bit of leeway since he does work at the post office, and he's absent tonight because of you. That's right, you people out there who order from Amazon, who are sending Christmas presents. It's all your fault because he was called because he was supposed to have tonight off, but was called in on an emergency so he could help out and get all the packages and parcels and letters out to all of y'all. So if you see a postman, say thank you. Yes. With that out of the way, let's get this. I guess it's not a conversation this week, but it's more of a soliloquy since I'm talking and I'm just talking into the camera, and hopefully someone will have pity on me and put something in the live chat for me to interact with. But actually I was really debating on whether or not we should stream tonight, just because there weren't too many big ticket news things going on. But after conferring with Robert just before the start of the show, and sorry about that, little technical difficulties. I'm sorry. I was talking about doing tonight's stream because there weren't too many big ticket news things that are happening. But again, conferring with Robert, he encouraged me to go forward anyways and do tonight's stream, and hence here I am to continue on, to soldier on bravely. As you might have seen in the title, there were some things to talk about, and so I think this first one I'm going to be talking about. I'm sorry, you know what? That's sorry, pumping my brakes here a little bit. Just a couple of things to touch upon. Yes, if you have been watching either Nocturnal Transmissions or the Circle of Jerks podcast, you can see that I've been growing out my beard, and it's I think it's a pretty nice beard, all things considering. It wasn't necessarily for No Shave November, but I haven't grown out my beard or my facial hair in quite a while, so I decided to grow it out, and to the dismay of many of my female family members, I decided to grow it because I think I could pull it off, and I'm one of the very few Koreans who can actually grow out their facial hair and like actually have like a goatee and like have it connect and everything. Because a lot of my friends who are Korean, who try to grow facial hair, it's very wispy. It's not as full as mine, and I just wanted to be a little bit of a dick and rub it in their faces. Just walk in with my glorious full beard. I mean, it isn't as full as I would like. I would definitely like it to be, to grow it a little bit higher up on the cheeks. Um, but we can't always get what we want, and I've been trying desperately to try and encourage hair growth, along here, just to fill it out. But yeah, that old wives' tale about if you shave. If you shave a certain spot, it'll encourage the hair to grow. I'm finding it to be, a bunch of bunk. So, I mean, maybe it might work for some people. I always thought that, it was silly because, like, when your hair initially grows out, it's very fine. It comes to a tapered end, when it initially grows. And then, so when you do eventually shave it, you're basically, shaving it off at the base, and so, which is thicker, and so it grows, and so I think that would explain for, sometimes like the coarseness of facial hair and like the thickness that, people typically attribute to shaving. But really, I think it's because it just starts at the base again, and I mean, but it's also a matter of like, how many hair follicles you have on your face as well. And, as you can see, I have quite a few on my face. And so that's been very beneficial for me. So I have been enjoying it. It's, there were times when, initially when I was growing it out, it was, very itchy, and like I was like, I was like scratching my cheeks like raw at a point, or like under my chin, because it was just so itchy. But now it's at a pretty comfortable length. And I actually trimmed my mustache this morning because the hairs were extending out over my top lip, and so whenever I eat something or drink something, the hair would like dip in, would get into whatever I was eating, or they don't, they call this the cookie duster, for good reasons, because you end up with like crumbs or food particles in your mustache. And so yeah, I've been really enjoying having facial hair. Actually, I was encouraged to grow my facial hair because of a previous guest on the main show, Eric Nan, because he had he's another Korean who can grow out facial hair, and it looks good on him. And so I was encouraged. It's like, I haven't grown out my facial hair in a while. And so he was like, so he was one of the inspirations for me to grow out mine. So Eric, if you're watching this, thank you. Big ups to you. Yeah. So as far as how my weekend was, it was pretty okay. When you constantly hear from us about how we go out and we hit bars or clubs or whatever. But this weekend, we kept it a lower key. Saturday, we were trying to get something going, but it just wasn't happening. One of our friends, he was dragging his feet a bit. We were asking him to come out with us, but he just kept like dragging his feet, and like we're thinking about hitting the bars, some bars here in in the valley where we live, but he was saying like, oh look, we kept putting up suggestions, and I don't know if you have this particular friend in yours, in your circles, but he's the friend that like constantly is like shooting down suggestions without really offering his own. And don't get me wrong, I love this guy. He's like a brother to me, but he was like really just like annoying me that night because he's like, well, let's go to this bar. It's like, no, it's like this bar. He's like, I don't like that bar, or the experience isn't good. Like, there's no place to sit, or and then we suggest another bar, and he says like, oh, well, no, because then there's not enough mingling, because people who usually go to that bar are just like with their group, and they don't really talk to anybody else. And so, then we suggested going to a club, because then there's at least, a chance to mingle, and also a place to sit down occasionally. But he was saying how tired he was, how like he kind of hurt himself, and so he was just like just constantly dragging his feet and poking holes into or shooting down all any suggestion that you gave him, and it was to a point where it's like, okay, I don't even feel like going out anymore, because he's shooting down ideas without offering any alternatives, and then and he was like, kind of expecting us to come up with like this like Goldilocks solution, where for those of you unaware, it's the not too hot, not too cold, just right, not too hard, not too soft, just right kind of solution. But if he was if he was as hurt as he says he was, all he had to say was, hey, I kind of hurt myself. I think I'm gonna rest up. You guys have a good time later. And that would have been the end of it, and we and like the rest of us could have come up with something, but. Yeah. Yeah. I don't mean to sound like I'm bitching, or that this particular friend is annoying or whatever. But he was just being annoying at at that moment, and it's it just really got my goat. How appropriate, since I have a goatee. Yeah, but I was just like really getting my goat, and I just wished he would just had gone one way or another, and not like waffled on the subject and said just like, hey, I hurt myself. I'm gonna rest up, and next we'll go out another time. That's really all he had to say. And that would have been the end of it, and the rest of us could have come up with a plan to go out or whatever. But even though that did happen and we didn't go out, it was still beneficial. I still I still had an enjoyable night. Just kind of crashing, catching up on some editing. Um, although the only bad thing was I was prepared to go out. And I did get hungry again later that night, and yeah, like I was teased a little bit with the notion of going out, because I thought I would we had gone to at least a restaurant, or a late night spot to grab a bite, because after we decided not to go out, I stayed I stayed home. I did some editing and all of that, and yeah, all of a sudden I got really hungry, and just like it was gnawing at me. It was to the point, like I downed like at least a liter of water, Because there's that thing where they say like, oh, sometimes when you're feeling hungry, you're actually thirsty. So I attempted to satiate myself with some water, but that didn't really help things, and so I guess I really was hungry, and so yeah, so I was like a fiend. I was like so hungry, like I had to go and get something to eat. And so I went and got some McDonald's. I got a double quarter pounder with cheese, and I gotta tell you that since they made that change to their preparation, like they decided that they're no longer gonna have frozen patties for at least their quarter pounders. I gotta say that it has made a world of difference because it is damn good, and I mean damn good. Yeah, so I got a double quarter pounder with cheese combo, and I got a side of also chicken nuggets, and I just like, yeah, it was. I mean, I know I've never experienced true starvation, but yeah, I was a fiend that night. I was just like I was like taking gigantic bites out of that burger and just, inhaling the fries. Um, it it kind of reminded me of Harold and Kumar go to White Castle. At the end, spoiler alerts if you haven't seen it, but at the end they do end up at White Castle and they order all this food, and they're just like, and they haven't eaten the entire night, and the whole purpose of the movie was for them to go and get these burgers, and they just ordered all this food, and then like they just at the end they just like went ham and into it, and they're just like devouring all the hamburgers and fries and drinks, and it was kind of like that. It was a little bit like that. Uh, so so I guess yeah. So that was my weekend. Well, speaking uh, of hamburgers, we'll get into the first news item that I have in the phone, and I haven't really looked into this very deeply. I saw things people posted on just before coming onto this. I saw like posts on like Instagram or Twitter and things like that. But apparently PETA has put out this list of words or phrases um, that use animal food metaphors or analogies or idioms, and they are suggesting that we replace them with more inclusive vegan and vegetarian uh, it's just so stupid. It's just so stupid. It hurts my brain. It hurts my brain, and I can't believe people waste their time on things like this. You know, um, because they're like they want us to start using like more like vegetarian or vegan include because they're afraid that talking about meat in front of a vegan or a vegetarian is going to trigger them. It's like, what, just go have a slab of bacon. Go eat a slab of bacon and leave me alone. All right. Because no one who eats bacon can be angry at me. So I mean, honestly, that like one of the things was like instead of saying bringing home the bacon, it's like bringing home like the turnips or something like that. It's just like, man, it hurts my brain. It really does. I don't know if this was just a big troll. I really don't know. I really don't know. But it hurts my brain. It hurts my brain to think about such things. Because who cares if like if idioms are inclusive or not? It's ridiculous. It's so stupid. Because the reason why, the reason why they use meat as a like a metaphor or an idiom or or yeah, like especially like that idiom, bringing home the bacon. The reason why is because meat was expensive. Meat was expensive. It cost a lot. Back in the day, it cost a lot of money. I mean, bacon's not particularly cheap nowadays, but back in the there was a reason why the people didn't incorporate a lot of meat in their diet because it was really expensive. It was really expensive, and so someone who can bring home the bacon is someone who is either doing very well for themselves in their jobs, or they're the providers. They're the providers of the bacon. And the bacon is just a stand-in for money. It's like someone who can bring home the money. That's all that means. That's all it's talking about, money. But now PETA is saying like, oh no, we got to be inclusive to the to the vegans, to the vegetarians. It's like, who cares? Who cares? You know what? They could still use the words. Do you think by just saying, oh, bringing home the bacon, or what's another meat based? Actually, you know what? This is like, hold on. I just want to look up the list of words real quick for you. Let me see. It's just, oh, here we go. Oh yeah, like killing two birds with one stone. Like, feed two birds with one stone. But that's not the idiom. Killing two birds with one stone. Again, it's about it kind of goes back to providing. But also but it also indicates you being an effective provider, because you're able to do two things with one action. That's all it's conveying. You can that you're an effective and efficient provider. That's all that is. Be the guinea pig. Be a guinea pig. That's just sad to say, they do use rodents for some experiments. And how you feel about it is how you feel about it. But again, the mere utterance of the word guinea pig does not mean that you are personally responsible for that animal being harmed. Beating a dead horse. Beating a dead horse. Basically trying to convey the futility of one's action. That's what it kind of feels like what I'm doing right now. It feels like I'm being a dead horse. The reason that like trying to trying to trying to explain this and parse this all out. It feels like it feels like I'm taking crazy pills. I guess the last one. Take the bull by the horns. Okay, well, this one isn't that the alternative one. This one doesn't. isn't that bad, because the alternative that they say you ought to say is take the flower by the thorns. And I guess I don't mind that one so much. But again, it's like, but a flower's not trying to kill you. And the bull is just an analog, or a substitute for a dangerous situation. That can go any sort of direction. But then also the horns are another dangerous element. Just taking the bull by the horns is just someone who will take on the hard task, the difficult task. That's all that. That's all. That's all that it's saying. That's all that it's meaning. This idea of changing words or obfuscating this somehow violence within the words themselves. It's maddening to me. It's maddening. Because I might have gone on one of these rants the last time I was solo. I went solo for a stream, but I know, dang, I must be getting all worked up because I'm starting to sweat. But the idea that words are somehow violence is just ridiculous to me. And I hope it's ridiculous to you, because I say, or I make certain sounds with my mouth that somehow physically impacts somebody else. I totally grant the calls to action. Like, go get him, beat his ass, burn it down. I totally understand the calls to violence, but merely opposing someone's point of view, or not agreeing with what they espouse, as violence. It's just like there's a simple test. There's really a simple test, and that's all you have to do is go up. Someone who says words are violence, just go up to him and say, "You want my words or do you want my fist?" And that's all you have to say. That's all you have to say to them. And if they say your words, then you've got them, because then they are making what is it? They're being at least honest in saying that there is a difference. That there is a difference between my words and my actions. So at the very least, they're being honest. And so, I think that's the best way to not trap, but get people to start being honest with themselves about what things are, and start living in the same reality, at least. And so I think use whatever words you want. Use whatever idioms. Use whatever idioms that you want to use. Just don't demand that someone else change their words. If don't demand that other people change them. I will never demand someone to I'll never demand someone to say something that they don't wish to say, or I would never try to have a law created, mandating people use certain words or not use certain words. Well, I guess uh, to transition from there, I guess the oh man, I need to. Oh, so I got so heated. I don't know why, but I did. You know, it's just you know, I just really think that people should, you know, people ought to live their lives the way they see as best. You know, as someone who, you know, for the you know better better majority of their life had to depend on other people's assistance, I can tell you that there's no greater feeling than being doing things for yourself, being capable. And so yeah, so I will always advocate for the individual, uh, and I'll always advocate for the individual's rights because I know what it's like, you know, not you know to be conscious of not being able to do things. You know, I mean, because you could say like, oh, well, you know, you were helped as a baby. It's like, yeah, we are all helped as a baby, but you know, when I got to the age where where all my peers and all my friends were doing things for themselves, like from the smallest things to like like tying their own shoelaces, you know, and I had to use Velcro strap shoes. Uh, I am fully aware. I am very familiar with not being able to do things for myself or even being ostracized from a group. Which actually, that is a better transition into this next story, which is Huffington Post came up with this article or whatever, talking about how Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer is problematic because it somehow affirms racism, homophobia, all the bad things essentially. Um, but it's just like people who put out articles like that really make me wonder about the quality of education that people are receiving nowadays. And I like to think that I got a I like to think I got a pretty good education. And I got it was and I was able to what is it my critical thinking faculties were honed and developed during my more formative years. But people who watch Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and come away thinking that it somehow promotes or it somehow validates you know homophobia, xenophobia, ostracization. They they have to be stupid. They have to be stupid because anyone who watches that children's classic, I'm gonna that's the line in the sand. For me? Is a children's classic because yes, Rudolph is an outcast. They make fun of him. They constantly call him names and they exclude him from the group. Well, what is the point of that story? What is the point of that story? That, here's this individual, again, individual who is different, who doesn't conform to the pattern, and he is made fun of. He is ostracized from the group, and he's expelled from the group. But what happens? What happens through his trial, through his hardship? He's made stronger. He's made more resilient, and then he is able to. And then at the end, but by the end, he is able to contribute something to the greater society, and then it is then that the group is able to see his worth, his contribution to uh, the larger group, and then he's accepted. And that's a lesson that is a lesson that we should be telling our children. It's like, yes, there are gonna be idiots who may look down upon you, who may call you names, who may ostracize you from a group. But if you work hard and you get through the gauntlet, then you'll become stronger, and you personally will see your worth. You'll see your worth in yourself before other people, and then you'll be able to contribute, and then people will see your value that you've seen in yourself, that you cultivated for yourself, and give back to society. I think that's the lesson that we should be pushing. If anything, if nothing else, if nothing else. I mean, similarly, in the same vein, I mean, look at what they're doing. They're the I forget where it was, but a radio station has pulled "Baby It's Cold Outside" uh, from its playlist. That's for those of you uh, not on the younger side. It's that song that Will Ferrell and Zoe Deschanel sing in Elf. That duet that they do in the movie. Yeah, that's the song. And this is an oldie, but it always comes back every winter. This stupid thing comes back because they say that this song promotes rape culture. That this guy is like won't let this woman leave. But what they don't see, and what they're not reading between the lines, is this woman wants to be there. This woman wants to D. If you go back and read the lyrics, you can see that she wants the D. She's like coming up with like all like these like quote unquote excuses to go. Talking about how her mother will worry, or the neighbors will say this or that, but she doesn't really care about those things because she wants the D. And even if if you look up the performance of the song, I forget what movie it's in, but it's not like this woman is pounding on the door to try to get out. She's into the guy, and she wants to at least feign, she wants to feign kind of that the feign the idea of chasteness, to like you know to go, oh, and at the here's the thing, at the one of the last lines. Hold on, let me look it up for sure. It's yeah, it's one of the last lines. Yeah, it says at least no. Oh, oh yeah, it says in verse 2, at least I'm gonna say that I tried. That means that she wanted, that she was into it, that she liked him and she wanted to stay. It wasn't she was being held against her will. They're doing like this little, it's like the dinner check, Dan. Um, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, particularly in Asian cultures, there's this dance that people do at after dinner, and the check comes, and they always go like, oh, I'll pay for this, I'll pay for this one, don't worry about it. And then like the other party will like grab it. It's like, no, 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 I'm gonna pay, no, 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 you got the last one, I'll get this one. And then there's like they keep back and forth thing, that kind of thing, until finally one person just relents. It's like, okay, you pay, but I'm gonna pay, next time. That cultures and societies and individuals engage in. That's completely normal. This is, if you watch like the scene from the movie, you'll see that there's like there's a flirtatiousness to their interaction. It's because again, the girl's into the guy's into the girl, and it's just kind of this wink and a nod, like oh, it's like it's like, I should really go. It's like, oh, but like look at the snow. It's like all the way up to it's all the way up to your knees, and like these constant like little playful little like these playful little moves that they do. And I to ban that, it's I mean it's rather innocent if you really think about it. It's really rather innocent, and it's consensual. It's consensual. It really is. And there's no more. And I know Robert hates this. Robert hates this word. It's been ruined for him. But there's a nuance. There's a nuance to relationship, to courtship. This is what because that's what that is. It's courtship. Above everything I just said, this is an example of courtship. And I think we could use some of that, some more of that in our society, in our culture today. But that's just my take on it. That's just my take on it, and you could have a completely different one. If you think that this song represents rape culture and the patriarchy and backwards thinking and all that, let me know. Tell me, lay out your case for me. Lay out your case for me. I will genuinely read your comment, and I will respond. Lay it out for me. Like what is that? Like that line in Philadelphia, Denzel Washington. It's like, treat me like I'm 5 years old. Explain it to me. Explain to me like I'm 5 years old. All right. Well, okay. On to our last bit of news, and that is the death of former President George H.W. Bush. He was the 41st president of these United States. He was, I believe, an Navy pilot, and he served during World War II. He was what is it? Director of the CIA, and he was vice president under Ronald Reagan. Um, of his children, I guess the two most well known are Jeb Bush, who was the former governor of Florida, and also George Walker Bush, Jr., who was the 40s. Don't screw this up. 43rd president of the United States, who not a lot of people think fondly of, but yes, their father and son were presidents. Yes, and he passed last week at the ripe old age of 90. I'm sorry. Just want to get this right, 94. He passed away at 94. It's pretty sad because just a few months earlier, his wife Barbara Bush died. He was from Maine. He was from Maine, and actually, for a time, the Bushes lived in Compton, California. And yes, that Compton, before the White Flight, as it were. Yeah, they lived in Compton for a little bit, and then before, I guess, settling in Texas. I honestly don't know too much about Bush Sr. He was president when I was but a boy, and yeah, I honestly don't know. Too much about him, except for what I learned on The Simpsons. um, but it's interesting. It's just interesting to me how the biased media, demonizes people on the right, but as soon as they die, they automatically become good guys. They confer upon them sainthood. When just a few years ago they were lambasting them and grossly mischaracterizing them. But as soon as they die, they start saying, they put out all these pieces about how great a person they were, and how thankful they are for their for their service, but they villainize uh, these people, particularly the one on the right. They call them monsters and warmongers and the like, but as soon as they die, they're all of a sudden like their best friends. I mean, we saw this a little bit with, or we saw this with John McCain, the senator from Arizona, where before they're calling John, when John McCain ran for president, they called him a racist. Excuse me. They called him, they just flat out called him a racist. But as soon as he died, he was like, oh, he was such a man. He was a man, in service for the people. He was a war hero, and all of this. But where was that? Uh, where was that deferential treatment when he was alive? You know. I mean, I don't care. I mean, if you think that he's a bad man, John McCain or George Bush, you think they're bad men. Think they're bad men, but don't put it out over the airwaves or in print and say like, oh, these guys are racist or these guys are monsters or they don't care about black people. And then as soon as they die, it's like, oh, they were such champions. They served their country. Because you can't live with monsters. You just can't live with monsters. You have to kill monsters. I remember back in the day when Twilight first came out. There was that in the previews for the movie. There's that scene where what's his face, Edwin, the vampire Edwin reveals himself as a vampire to old Sourface. Kristen Stewart, that's what. And he's like, what are you? And she asks, like, what are you? And he says, say it. And then she says, vampire. But there was a parody. There was a parody skit done, I think, by G4, the defunct gaming network. Where they did the whole setup where it's like where the girl says like, what are you? And the guy says, say it. And the girl says, vampire. And then immediately vampire slayers come in and kill the vampire, and they say, you're supposed to kill vampires, you're not supposed to fall in love with them. And and yeah, that's what you're supposed to do with monsters. You're supposed to kill them. But what happens when the monster dies? They all of a sudden become this tragic figure and someone who's to be lauded and respected. It's like you just called them a monster. You made him out to be a monster. So how does that work? I mean, that's what I'm really confused about. How does one person go from a monster to all of a sudden being this great saint? I mean, that's really what I want to know. But even though I'm perplexed by all of this, and it is damn confusing how someone goes from a monster one minute to dedicated patriot the next. One of the shining lights from this sad event was the left and the right coming together over Sully, former President Bush's service dog. Sully, I believe, is the name of the dog, and just how and how much of an internet celebrity he's become. Uh, I think the most famous picture was of George Bush's casket with the flag draped over it, and then you see Sully lying down in front of the casket, with his human. And I saw left-leaning celebrities, putting up that picture and saying like, oh, loyal to the end, and all that kind of, all the nice things that one says, about someone who's recently passed. And yeah, I gotta admit that did encourage me. I was encouraged that there could be not so much a reconciliation, but an encouragement that bridges could be built, and issues could be somehow not overcome, but bypassed. I guess would be a better way of saying it. Bypassed for the moment, for events such as these. And yeah, that's and it got me. It got me hopeful. It got me hopeful for this country. It got me hopeful for being an American. And I hope, all of you are too, because we can't always live by which side of the aisle we're on or which team we're on, because at the end of the day, we're human beings, but we're also Americans. And to quote two great senators, at least at the time, we just have different idea. We both have idea. We all have ideas. I'm sorry. We're not evil. It's just we have different ideas of how to make the country great. And I think that's the thing we should all be taking away from instances, from sad instances like the passing of former President George Bush. Well, surprisingly, I've come and hit the hour. I was really surprised because I didn't think I was gonna make it. Honestly, just to put it out there, I didn't think I was gonna have as much to say about all of these stories, but I'm pleasantly surprised that I was able to make the hour. So I think we're gonna end it there for tonight. Again, I think I'm really pleased that I have these moments where I can come and talk to y'all, just to exercise that part of my brain, just to just get things off my chest, because I mean, as much as I enjoy the conversation, sometimes a soliloquy like this is just as enjoyable. And necessary. Uh, just for the health of the human mind. So yeah, I will end it here tonight. Thank you for joining us or joining me tonight. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you were entertained, inspired, and maybe challenged even. Don't forget to join us every Tuesday night for Nocturnal Transmissions at 8-ish p.m. Just a quick note, we will be taking a 2-week break, both for Nocturnal Transmissions and the Circle of Jerks podcast, because Christmas and New Year's happen to land on a Tuesday, and so we have decided that we're going to take a 2-week break. We're not going to be streaming, or we're still probably going to be putting out the Circle of Jerks podcast, but we're going to take a 2-week break from the live stream. So just be aware of that. So what is that? Let me take a quick look at the calendar. Yeah. So the 18th, yes, the 18th will be the last live stream of 2018. Huh, look at that. 18. Yeah, so yeah. December 18th will be the last live stream for 2018, and yeah, we'll pick up again, the first full week of January. So yeah, don't miss us too much. Don't forget to check out the library of podcasts, the Circle of Jerks podcast, Nocturnal Transmissions, and of course, if you're into old school retro games like from Nintendo or Atari or Game Boy, there's Rob's. We have an archive of Rob's show, Up by Up Down. So check those out. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, Twitter at PodcastCOJ and Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. That'll do it for us tonight, and we will see you next week. Hopefully with Robert, but if you can't, I'll still come on and talk my head off. All right, see you guys next week. Take care.